Hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man Score Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm starting off my new Mr. Haunted Marathon for you guys. And the first video I'm reacting to is called The Truth About the Deep Web, a deep web horror story. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the room in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go. I'm glad that Mr. Haunted put in the intro of the video that it's going to be disturbing, so like you said, viewer discretion is advised. I just hope this don't give me no nightmares.
For those of you who don't know what the deep web is, it's basically hell's side of the internet. What I exactly mean by hell is that you could see some stuff on there that will scar you for life, and it's definitely not a place you want to go.
Oh, don't you worry, I ain't looking up no deep web websites because I definitely do not want to be tracked for people to know where I live at or see people actually get murdered or selling drugs on there. I don't want to even look at that stuff. But anyway, let's just continue on the rest of the story, see what happens, shall we?
Some people go on the deep web to look for drugs, while others use it for other things, which I won't go into many detail at this moment. I know some people who have heard of these horror stories on YouTube about the deep web, saying that they were illegal pornography sites, murder torture sites, hitmen, and other disgusting fetish sites. Some people went on the deep web to see if it was actually true and ended up never finding it, but that's because they didn't look deep enough. I made a huge mistake going on the deep web and thought the whole thing sounded like a joke to me, but it's definitely not. Let me tell you my story. My name is Jane, and I was about 16 years old when this happened. I did well in school and I had some friends here and there, but sometimes I would find myself lonely eating at lunch with nobody around. I used to get bullied in school a lot because the kids thought of me as weak and, quote, not cool enough. At one point, I was fed up with the whole bullying situation, and I started doing illegal activities such as drugs, fighting, and hanging out with the type of people who would do that type of stuff.
Man, you shouldn't have not done that. If people say you're not cool, just say, or you're not cool for saying I'm not cool. You know, don't let bullies tear you down. Go talk to a school administration staff and see what they can do about straightening the situation out, or tell your parents, because then they'll get it situated. And then once you get on drugs and start hanging out with the wrong type of people, you'll become the person that you do not want to become. And I feel sorry for this girl who had to go down that path over people picking on her.
You know the type of people I mean. I made a friend named Daniel at one point, and Daniel was the type of guy who sold weed, cocaine, and marijuana. In other words, he was a drug dealer. I bought some stuff from him before, but I wasn't exactly sure how he got all the drugs. At one point, I had asked him where he got all his drugs from, and then he started to talk to me about the deep web. I've heard of this place before, but didn't really know what it actually was. Me being unaware of the deep web, I asked him what it exactly was. He went on to tell me that the deep web was just a place where you could buy drugs off of, and just people on there who tried to expose government or military secrets. He told me that if I wanted to check it out, that I should download the Tor browser, which is basically an anonymous browser that keeps your IP address hidden. So, I stupidly took his advice and downloaded the Tor browser when I got home. I've heard about what could happen to me, but I stupidly ignored it. I launched Tor and I was now in the entrance of the so-called deep web. I clicked through forums and websites, and all I basically saw was a bunch of drug sites and sites that contained documents that were in Chinese or some foreign language. So yeah, nothing too dark. I went on for hours and hours just exploring and trying to find something interesting besides drugs. This went on for about 3 hours, scrolling through link after link when I stumbled upon a link that was in red while all the other ones were in blue. I knew that this link was special and that something had to be behind this link. The link was basically a bunch of random letters and numbers. For example, A3XXR933DT.onion. I clicked on the link and read, and then it took me to a white blank page. At first, I thought it was maybe a broken link, but some words popped up on the top left-hand corner of my screen. It said, redirecting you to what you came here for, with a smiley face next to it. I was a bit curious of what I was about to see. In case it was one of those weird, sickening fetish sites, I wouldn't mind it because I've seen some pretty messed up things on sites like Bestcore, and I thought it would be ready.
Oh, no. You're not going to be ready for that. If a link is highlighted in red, that means it's something for someone to show off their deadly fetishes, let's put it that way. But if it pops up a white screen on your computer, redirected you to what you came for, I would have X'd off immediately because you never know what will pop up. And somebody might be using that link just to hack your IP address to figure out where you are. I wouldn't have done it at all. But let's just see what pops up on her screen that made her so scared of the deep web forever.
The thing is, I wasn't. The page then finally loaded up, and I saw a site that had a bunch of torture and murder. I can't remember the site's name as it looked like it was from a foreign country, but I saw pictures of innocent human beings going through horrible pain. I came across a video of what looked like a teenage girl naked and tied to a chair. She had a lit firework in her mouth. I could see tears running down her cheeks, and I could hear her muffled screams as the spark was almost coming in contact with the firework. I knew what was about to happen, and I exited out of the video and tried to get out of the site. I knew that I should have listened to those YouTube videos and not to go on the deep web, but my curiosity got the better of me. I put my cursor over the X and clicked, but it didn't close out. I tried it again, but it still didn't close. After several times of clicking rapidly, the page finally closed. I breathed a sigh of relief and swore to myself never to go back to the deep web. However, a few minutes later, a small black video box popped up on my screen. I was confused at first, but then the screen was filled with static. The screen then showed someone sitting at a desk wearing a vendetta mask. He was talking in a voice in what I could only describe as demonic. He said something along the lines of, "If you come back, I will kill you." I told him that he was sick in the head and that he deserved to burn in hell. He then said, "Well, okay, I see you live in Idaho, and I have your address here." He then disconnected, and I went to my room. I was sure that he was just joking to scare me, but then I thought about how these people can find your address and that if they weren't lying, so I was creeped out. About a week later, I was home alone and my parents had gone to a convention for work. At this point, I already forgotten about my experience on the deep web. I had just finished some homework for geometry class, and then I decided to go to the freezer to grab some ice cream while watching TV. As I was getting ice cream, I heard a loud knock at my door. The knock was very loud and very fast, as if whoever was on the other side was angry. I looked through the peephole and saw at least 6 different men dressed in black hoodies wearing masks. I gasped while still looking through the peephole. One guy looked straight at the peephole and slowly started to wave his hand as if he could see me. I stepped back and ran upstairs into my room and hid under my bed. I then heard glass break from downstairs, along with them cussing and telling threats. I tried to stay as quiet as possible while they were opening doors and going into rooms trying to find me.
See, you try to leave that site and then you cuss them out and they said they know your address. You should have took that as a warning to be prepared. They were coming. But now they're there and you're hiding in your room somewhere. That'd be a good time to call the police and get them over there quick before they find you and kidnap you. But man, that's a scary situation that nobody don't want to be in.
Eventually, I heard someone coming up the stairs fast and stopping at the door to my bedroom. I could see the outlines of shoes at the bottom, and I knew that whoever these people were coming inside. Not even 3 seconds later, they kicked down my door, and they started ruining everything trying to find me. Yanking my closet door open, pulling off my blanket and sheets. I then felt two hands grab my feet and pull me out. I screamed as loud as I could, and they all started to surround me while putting duct tape over my mouth and tying rope around my hands and feet. I couldn't move now. One of the men took out a quarter stick, which for those of you who don't know is basically a small stick of dynamite. He then proceeded to open my mouth and light the fuse. I knew what was going to happen now. I was going to end up like that girl in that video. Before he was going to put it in my mouth, I heard 2 or 3 men from downstairs break open my front door. They came into my room and said, "Police, get down on the ground." All of the men got down except for one who tried to fight the officers and ended up getting tased. They put all of the men in cuffs and was eventually taken away. My parents arrived soon after, and I cried because I was literally 2 seconds away from dying. The men were all sentenced to death, and thank God they were. My neighbors saw these men at my front door and then called police. It turns out, these men had kidnapped hundreds of teens just like me and ended up killing them for entertainment. I really hope those sick people get what they deserve. The deep web is not a joke. It is in fact a real place on the internet that exists. If you think you're tough enough and you think you're brave enough to go explore it, then be my guest, but you will regret it if you make a mistake. So if you ever heard those horror stories about what goes on in the deep web, then they are in fact true. I was stupid and clumsy for doing this, but I at least learned the hard way and found out the truth about the deep web.
Man, that was a close call. Thank God her neighbors saw them guys breaking into the house and called the cops, because if they didn't, they would have been blown off. And I'm glad that the courts sentenced them to death. So I know when they go down to hell, they're going to regret killing them girls. But if not, they're a bunch of sick SOBs and they deserve to burn for all eternity. But she's right. Do not get on the deep web, because then something bad like this would happen to you. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Mr. Haunted content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.